Hello, this is chapter 16 of Red Kayak. My mother's cool, gentle hand on my forehead was like an ice cube on a bonfire, I thought. She had no idea the torment that ravaged inside me, even though I was stretched out, quiet and still on the living room couch, Tilly on the floor beside me. You don't look so good, Brady. What's wrong? My stomach, I told her. The last thing I wanted to do was to go to a Memorial Day picnic with my parents. Your stomach, she repeated. What did you eat for lunch? Chicken, I mumbled. Mrs. D'Angelo left me some chicken. Mom sucked in her breath. Chicken! I bet that was it. You have got to be so careful with chicken. I'll be all right, I argued. It's just a stomach ache. You and Dad go on ahead. You sure? She asked with a pained expression. I made that lemon cake you like. Mom, please, the last thing I want to do is eat. She dropped her hands in her lap and nodded sympathetically. Well, can I get you something before you go? A ginger ale? An ice water? I barely moved my head. Nothing. After my father was done showering, they dragged a cooler across the kitchen floor, dumped in a bunch of ice, and packed up stuff. It took them so long I thought they would never leave. But finally my dad came to the doorway and said, We won't be late. If you feel better and change your mind, call us at Uncle Henry's. Okay, I replied, keeping the back of my hand over my eyes. As soon as I heard the door latch, I stood up and went to the kitchen window and watched them drive away. I bit my thumbnail and then actually cried a little because I did not know what to do. I sank back down in the kitchen chair, then leaned forward and held my head in my hands. The right thing to do was to go and tell the police what happened. It was so obvious. But then I started thinking about how much trouble we'd all be in. What if Digger was right about the murder charge? What if about us being all to blame? Even if I didn't take part in drilling the holes, it was my idea. Reform school would be awful, and it would just kill my parents. They wouldn't be able to face any of the neighbors again. They might even want to move. But how could they? Dad's work is here, on the river, in the workshop. We loved it here. This was home. I stood up and started to pace the room. If I said something, if we all ended up in trouble, then JT and Digger might never, ever talk to me again. I knew how much it had hurt the past month, them shutting them shutting me out. I imagined what it would be like forever. Not only that, but all the kids at school would think I was a snitch if I told them my two best friends, even if I got in trouble too. I would have to go to school someplace else. Mom and Dad would have to get permission for me to go to high school in Kent County or something. I stopped walking and slapped a hand on my forehead. Tilly whined. My pacing had confused her. I knelt and scratched behind her ears for a minute, and while I did, I looked into her soulful brown eyes, wishing she could tell me what to do. Come on, let's go outside, I told her. We walked down to the water, and for a long time I sat, cross-legged, at the end of the dock, while Tilly sniffed around in the marsh. The soles of my shoes were still caked with chicken manure, but I didn't care. I pulled my Swiss Army knife out of my pocket and must have opened and closed it about 100 times, but I still couldn't seem to come up with a decision about what to do with the drill. Turn it in? Keep it hidden? Get rid of it? What? Maybe no decision was my decision, I thought. I closed the knife and slid it back in my pocket. When Mom and Dad came home at 10:30, I met them in the kitchen and told them I was feeling better, even though I wasn't really. Thank goodness, Mom said, cutting me a thick slice of leftover lemon cake. I worried you had food poisoning. I sat on the kitchen table eating the cake with a glass of milk, but I couldn't finish. Why don't you get some sleep? Mom said. It's been a long day. Boy, she had no idea just how long it had been. I will, I said, but after my parents went to bed, I stayed at the kitchen table. A moth had come in the door and was trying to beat itself to death on the light over the kitchen sink. It got to me after a while, although I was sure it was entertaining Tilly, who sat at attention and monitored its every move. Between the annoying smack and flutter, the lump of cake that sat in my stomach, I felt I had to do something. So I finally did go to bed, even though I knew I couldn't sleep. Mrs. D'Angelo returned a couple days later, but she came home alone and did not seem any happier. She had those dark pockets under her eyes again, like she hadn't slept either, and her hair was pulled into a skinny ponytail that didn't look clean. I knew I couldn't ask, but I wondered what had happened with her husband. I wondered if he still blamed her for Ben dying. "Did you see the boathouse yet?" I inquired gingerly. Mrs. D'Angelo sat at the edge of her bathrobe, half-heartedly trying to make a list of chores for me, but she perked up a little when I asked. "No, I haven't," she replied, looking up at me. I found myself watching her, but every time she moved her eyes towards mine, I focused on something else. "Show me," she said, putting down the pencil and grabbing her coffee. We walked down the hill to the boathouse together. Over the past 2 days I had cleaned out the entire place and had 18 leaf bags tied up ready for the trash, along with 2 big piles of junk, one about 5 feet high for the landing, and one with some decent stuff, including a porch swing and a twin-sized bed frame for the Salvation Army. "Good job," she complimented me. "I can't believe you did all this." "Got my dad's pickup truck," I told her. "He said we could come get this stuff one evening when he's done working, and we'll haul it out of here for you." "That would be great." She seemed really amazed. "You must have worked like a dog, Brady." "It was hot," I conceded, staring at my shoes. "Well, I think a bonus is in order." "No," I protested. She looked at me funny, maybe because I had practically shouted at her. "I'm going to insist," she countered, folding her arms. "Brady, if you work for me, you get paid." I didn't want to fight her. I didn't want to make a big thing out of it. "Just regular hours," I added weakly. "Please, nothing extra." Honestly, the money meant nothing to me, and I was beginning to wonder about something else. While she was turned away, examining an old peach basket I put in the throwaway pile, I sucked in my breath. When she turned around, I warned her. "I don't think I'll be able to work for you." "Brady, but why?" Her disappointment surprised me, made me sink back. I licked my lips, bit them, but I couldn't bear to add to her problems. "Not for a while, anyway," I replied. "See, I've got exams this week and I need to study." "Oh, exams. Sure, I understand." I had to think fast because that only bought me a few days. "You scared me," Mrs. D'Angelo said. "I'm not sure I'd know what I would do here without you." "But that's just it, see, because after school's out, I'm going up to Rhode Island to visit my cousins." I said this even though I wasn't sure my mom had actually made those arrangements. "Oh, it was planned a long time ago," I added, sounding apologetic. "It's okay, Brady," she assured me, smiling and patting me on the arm so I wouldn't feel bad about leaving her. "That's important too." I sighed and feeling a little relieved. It gave me 2 weeks, exams, a trip to Rhode Island. 2 weeks and time away from her, time away from everybody. I thought maybe that's what I needed. Or was I just running away?